Aren't we tired of dirty tricks? That will be the theme of this episode. This, of course, is Nuance. I'm Mike Scala. I'm a candidate for State Assembly in District 23 here in New York, joined by Jay Carter, also known as Timid, the hip hop artist and the chair of BLM Tokyo. It's been a while, Jay. How you doing?
It's been a minute indeed. I'm good. Uh, Getting there. Just got off of a week-long trip going here and there, and so finally able to kind of settle down and relax a little bit. So
Okay, so you've had some Tokyo adventures over the past week, right?
not just Tokyo. It was Tokyo. It was Okinawa, Kyoto. So I had to do some flying, I had to do a lot of train riding and ridiculous amounts of walking, but it was good.
Mm.
So I did some lectures and some workshops. So yeah, it was all good.
Okay, so where were these workshops at? Schools, universities, different places?
Right. So the trip to Tokyo, I was doing a lecture on responsible and ethical use of AI and
Mm.
how to use it for study. So this was
Hmm.
at one of the prestigious and oldest English language medical schools in Tokyo. And so did it for the entire first year class. Well, I don't know if it was the entire, but it was 137 students in there.
Mm.
So, a lot of educational institutions are concerned about students using AI and how it's going to disrupt being able to evaluate them and are they
Sure.
turning in AI work, et cetera. So I gave talk on, like I said, some of the ethics of it, especially for medical students. We need the
Mm.
medical students to be doing their work and not letting AI do it. And then,
Right.
of course, how to use it for study. So some of the
Yeah. So where do you draw that boundary, right? When you're trying to explain, okay, this is the ethical way for a student to use AI. How does that
right.
look?
Well, for medical students, they definitely need it because their future patients are going to rely on them to know the knowledge, right? This is not just like
Right.
another class where you can just, okay, let AI write my paper and it's done.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
need to do those steps. So that was the message I was trying to get across to them. I think what we're going to have to do in academia is go from a model where we were judging students on the papers they turned in, and we're going to have to go to a more practical assessment so that we can see that they understand the knowledge, right?
Hmm.
They're going to have to prove, maybe it's, I don't know, speeches or projects or something that they can't just feed into like a chat GPT and it spits it out for them.
Kind of
So,
like how you would have a thesis for your PhD that had to be defended, right? So you couldn't just turn
yeah,
something in. You you had to be able to stand by it, right?
right. And so that was, one of the things that we talked about. And then of course, some tools that they could use to help them study better with it, because there's some incredible tools out there for that. So that was what the Tokyo was. And I was up there for 3 days.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting to me because we've talked about this extensively in the past, but AI obviously is a very powerful tool and it has
Yeah.
very good potential uses, but you got to be careful, especially as
Yeah.
this is still relatively new technology. And, if you're looking at it for studying purposes, sure, it can give you a lot of good information, but how do you weed out the good information from the bad? I mean, if you're
Right.
manually checking everything it gives you, right? So let's say it gives you a list of, I don't know, five different things. You ask it a question on a certain topic and it gives you 5 points. Well, you don't know which of those points necessarily are going to be accurate. So now aren't you going back to Googling or searching and other methods, maybe even going to the library if you're old school, but you're kind of manually checking, fact checking what it's giving you. At that point, aren't you kind of back to the drawing board, or is it just something that kind of just like sparks your imagination and gets you started?
Well, what I was recommending to the students was, and you're correct there, right? What I was recommending to the students was Google's Notebook LM. So you're right. Like if you were to just ask AI for an answer to something, like you don't know if it's right or wrong, and you still need to verify that information. And so it's like, well, then why even go to AI? Why not just verify
Hmm.
it first? Um, so I was recommending them use Notebook LM, where you provide all the sources and then the AI, you can chat with AI on those
Mm.
sources. So it doesn't use its background training, so it's
Hmm.
more accurate. Now, with it's still AI,
Right.
so you
Right.
still need to make sure the information is correct, but you can use it to help explain things better, but it's not using its own ideas of how to explain it better. It's using it based on what's in the source that you provide. So
Hmm.
textbooks, articles, videos, all of that stuff, and then it can
Yeah.
communicate with you like that. So it's a little bit better in that regard.
Yeah, yeah. And you were just talking about medical students. Now I'm thinking about law students, right? Because when I
Right.
went to law school, a big
Hmm.
part of it, especially in the first year, was learning how to read case law. And so they would give you a lot of cases to read. You know, you would do your constitutional law class, for example, and you would have to read all these Supreme Court decisions interpreting the Constitution dating back to the early 1800s. And it's hard to digest at first because they're using a lot of legalese and a lot of the stuff is older and they're
Right.
talking about clauses of the Constitution you may not be very familiar with yet, all these different things. And part of what you were supposed to do in your first year was kind of take that and summarize it. Say, okay, what is the issue here? What is the main issue? Just summarize that in one sentence. What is the main rule coming out of this case? So how did they apply that, the facts of this case to the rule? What was the conclusion? What was the holding they call that, right? What was like the
Mhm.
point of law that came out of that case? And so you kind of take this case, which sometimes could be pages long. Sometimes, we've seen Supreme Court decisions, they could be 50 pages, 100 pages or more sometimes. But you're taking
Right.
these long, kind of complex, legally confusing decisions and summarizing them into a few points. I'm wondering now, I mean, I'm sure students are just plugging these cases into AI and having AI do these case briefs for them, which can be dangerous, A, because
Right.
it can get things wrong, and B,
Right.
because they're missing out on the reps. They're missing out on the
Right.
training, right, that we had in law school, where we learned how to easily digest cases. After a while, it becomes second nature. You can read the case and be like, okay, I know exactly what this is. But you have to put those reps in. It's like, working, exercising any other muscle. You have to exercise
Right.
your legal muscle, so to speak. They're not doing that probably if they're relying heavily on AI.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I always stress that AI should be an assistant. It shouldn't be the primary force or a primary source. And so, in a case like that, I think it could be useful um, for students, especially those struggling, where you could put in the sources, you can put in the case, and then, you know, first you have to read it yourself.
Hmm.
But if then you can put it in there, and now you can discuss the case with someone, basically, so that you can deepen your understanding of it and have that conversation, that whether it's chat or by voice, you can have that
Hmm.
conversation. So like there's a feature in Notebook LM where let's say you put the case in, and then you put let's put some articles about the case afterwards, and then you would have Notebook LM create a detailed podcast about it. And so it's a very real sounding podcast audio with two people
Wow.
discussing that info.
Yeah.
But then here's the another component to that is at any time during that podcast when you're listening, you can click join and it'll be like you're a caller on the radio station and you can
Wow.
ask them a question live and then they'll
Wow.
respond in the middle of the podcast. So I
That's
think
kind of
that could
scary. I mean, I can see it being very useful, but it's also kind of
right.
scary that that's where we are.
Right, right. Yeah, so it's like they'll be describing something, they'll say, yeah, in this Terry v. Ohio,
Hmm.
this event, and then you click join and like, hey, it seems like we've got a question. What's on your mind? And then you
I
say,
like the reference, Terry, Ohio. Yeah.
yeah, and
So in,
say,
in that
oh,
case, what was reasonable, articulable suspicion, right?
right. And then they were like, you know what? Good question. In this case, blah, 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 right? And so, and it makes its answers from the sources that you've provided. And then, after it's finished your question, then it continues on with the rest of the podcast and you can interrupt. So I think for reps that could help with people,
Yeah.
some,
If
but
they actually do that though, and they're not
right.
just taking a shortcut, because the way
That's
that the professors used to check you, so to speak, right? They did the Socratic method where when you got back to class the next day, they would randomly call on students and grill them about the case. They would say, so Mr. Carter, Terryview, Ohio, what was the main issue? What rule of law was tested here? What were the main facts of
Mhm.
the case? What was the posture of the case? Who was appealing this case? And then,
Mhm.
but they'll go deeper into it as well. They go, why did the court deny this argument? Why did the court go this way?
Mhm.
Did the court entertain that argument? Do you agree with the holding of the case? They kind of quiz you on the case, and that's their way of making sure that you're staying engaged with the reading. But if people are just using AI to summarize the main points, yeah, they may be able to survive that Socratic method if the points are there. But then again, maybe the teachers will have to get smarter or just adjust their behavior and start asking different questions that they know AI is not necessarily covering.
Right, or ask deeper questions, or
Hmm.
have the student expand on their answers instead of,
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't allow just one word responses, but
Hmm.
show that they understand it in a deeper level the way they respond.
Right. Yeah.
So
And also, you were talking about that whole podcast thing, AI podcast thing. There was a class I took in law school, and now this is back, from 2009 to 2012, so it's quite a ways back. But they used to have forums on the internet, and so they
right,
created their own class forum, where only students of the class could access it. But part of that class, part of the assignment of that class was to post a legal argument of some sort that was relevant to the class and have other classmates comment on your argument. So they would have threads created where different classmates would have different ideas, legal theories or whatever, and then the classmates were supposed to engage with them on this class, local class forum that was put up
right,
there for just people in the class to access. And so you were graded based on your engagement on that forum. That was, part of what you had to do in that class. So I could see this evolving to something like you just described, where the
right,
assignment might be create a podcast or even an AI assisted podcast on this legal topic, breaking down these complex topics into more
right,
digestible, sound bites or information.
right. Yeah, and I think ultimately the thing is that, whether you agree with it or not, students are going to use it. And
Hmm.
so it's best to give some direction on how to use it, and make the teachers aware of how it's being used, so that they can either recognize when a student has been using it, or understand how to deal with it.
Absolutely. We are joined by a special guest, waiting to see if there was a cloud of smoke surrounding him. Okay, looking pretty good there. Andre
Boy,
Bystrov from Bryant Bystrov, of course, campaign
Guys,
manager to the Mike Scala campaign. What's going on, Andre? We were just having a discussion on AI because Jay just got back from Tokyo and some other places around Japan where he was giving lectures on AI, and in particular, the ethics of AI when it comes to students and medical students, which I found to be quite fascinating.
what's going on there, Andre?
how are you folks? Yeah, no, I mean, you know me, I'm very technophobic, so to be fair, I'm very anti-AI kind of in all elements. Though I've been trying to figure out kind of some certain modern approaches to things where AI could be useful in terms of like state legislation just for data aggregation and things like that. That I think it can be useful. But I do want to say that like one of the biggest disasters of the quote unquote big beautiful bill was the fact that states wouldn't be able to regulate AI for 10 years.
Hmm.
And I think that's a major problem, especially with such a growing industry that is kind of creating a bubble in our markets. That's
Right.
also kind of just hallucinating for lawyers in courtrooms, making children kill themselves. You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying that maybe quite a bit of regulation is required.
Yeah,
I agree with
no, that
that.
definitely that it needs to get a handle on it, because it's very easily can get more out of control. And even with the regulations, since these models are now being able to run locally, some of that could even be moot, but I still think there need to be efforts to put those things in place.
So, Andre, you just mentioned being technophobic. Jay told me something that even scared me a few minutes
Mhm.
ago. which was, and tell me if you're aware of this or if you heard about this. There is some kind of AI app, and Jay will remind me what it was called, the
Notebook
podcast one.
LM. Notebook LM.
Notebook LM, where you can give it a topic and it will create an AI audio podcast of two voices speaking about that topic. But even further than that, he said it has a feature where you could call in, quote unquote, call into this AI podcast, ask the host a question, and it will interrupt its discussion to answer your question. That just blew my mind. I'm like, wow, this is really happening right now. This is like, it makes
Yeah.
me question of we're all AI. You know what I mean? Like, we're obviously not, but we can be. You know what I mean? Like, it's like blurring the lines between reality and fiction almost.
No, I mean 100%, but also like don't forget, like there have been these like weird examples that, obviously they try to push AI, I guess, different AI algorithms to their breaking points to see like what they would do. And within these
Hmm.
kind of frameworks, these AI, bots would hack the CEOs of those companies to try to
Hmm.
blackmail them and extort them just to survive. I mean, this is
Hmm.
all, pardon my language, very scary shit. And so, like, maybe we should, like I
Yeah.
said, think about some regulation.
Yeah. Yeah. No, a thousand
Yeah,
percent. 1,000%.
absolutely.
It will very quickly spiral out of control if we don't.
And I mean,
Yeah,
listen,
no,
my concern, by the way, on the political angle is that now AI companies, just because of how fast that market is growing and because so many different folks have so many different investments in it, it is, kind of pushed into the political arena where now you have a ton of different pro AI super PACs that
Mm.
are creating kind of these like outlandish disparities between different campaigns. You know what I mean? Both on just like a state legislative side, but also on a national level, federal. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like, so it's
Yes.
scary times.
So this is a good segue. I'm about to get into the main topic here, but let me segue into the segue, I guess, into the main topic because while we're talking about AI here, I did want to briefly ask your thoughts on AI in music because Diplo was recently quoted. Someone sent me an article that he was like either get with the times and use AI in your music or become a truck driver or something of that sort. That was kind of a
mhm,
controversial statement. But Timbaland also, and I think he may be sponsored by Suno, one of these companies now, but he has
right.
been very outspoken about using AI. I think he signed an AI, quote unquote, signed an AI artist, which some people think is kind of crazy. But
That's not real. That's not a thing. That
I
is
mean,
that's
it's a
that's
thing.
no,
It's
it's not.
happening.
It's promotional hype. It is nobody signed any AI artist because an AI artist cannot have a pen in their hand
Well,
and signing a
that's
document.
why I use
They
air
give
quotes there for
conscious
the
consent. Yeah. So
audience
like yeah.
watching.
So
But yes,
that's not a real thing.
but it is
Also,
real
there's no
that
such thing as an AI artist, by the way.
yes, well, but
No,
there
no,
are
no, no.
songs. Hold on a second.
I'm
There are
sorry,
songs being released. There are songs. So whether we like it or
but
not, it's
that's not.
happening. It's
No,
happening.
no, 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 no. I acknowledge that this is happening. I
Yeah.
also watch Drake put out like shit with Tupac's
Uh,
voice and everything
right.
else. Like
Well,
so,
this is kind of what I'm
but
asking.
but
Earlier
my
we talked
point
about.
being is
I
there's
understand.
like
Go ahead.
it's oxymoronic in and of itself.
I
There's no
hear
such
you.
thing
I
as
hear
an
you. I know what you're
AI
talking about.
artist.
I
Yeah.
know what you're talking about. Yeah, and I agree because there's inherently no soul. There's no human emotion
Right.
in
That
it.
the
I mean,
reason
maybe the
that
AI is
AI
trained with that and can try to emulate
exactly.
it. But
Yeah.
here's my question. We talked about the ethics of using AI as a student. What about as an artist? Is the rule that you can't use it at all, or is there a limit? I saw an interview with a hip hop artist who said, listen, they would never use it to help them write their raps or anything like that. But at the end of the day, they just want a beat. And if the AI tools can help them create a good beat, is that much different from using a sampler back in the day when people didn't have the resources
how
to have
many
instruments?
engineers and producers have to go out of work to satisfy your craving for modernity? That is what I
Well,
want to ask
but here's
this
my
this
other question though, because
industry.
that's a good point
You
that
know
you
what I mean?
raised.
How many
Can
of
we
Drake's
trust Andre?
ghostwriters?
Andre,
How many of Drake's
All
ghostwriters
right,
have to
right.
one at
go
a
out of
time,
work
y'all. One at a
with
time,
AI
y'all.
because of the AI stuff?
Hold on a second. But here's the thing. Can we even trust now that producers are not going to be using it? So if you're going to go
No,
looking for producers to work on music with you, they could be giving you AI slop, as they call it, or something that
100%,
was made with AI. And so
100%.
we're already there, right? And so I kind of understand this thought process that, okay, the tool is there. Maybe it can be used to help with the production of the song. Again, you don't use it to write the song or to record for you, but to beef up the production, or use it
Listen,
kind of like as a sampler was used back in the day.
I'm not saying you can use it efficiently. I'm also not saying you can use it to create real art. I'm saying that we shouldn't do it. I'm not
Okay.
saying we can't. I'm not saying like it's not a
Well,
feasible
I'm not
thing.
saying it's illegal, but ethically, the question is ethically, I
I
guess.
think yes. I think ethically
Yeah.
and morally that artists do should take a stand against, the incorporation of AI within their
Hmm.
material, because at the
Hmm.
same, by the same token, it is a slippery slope where at the end of the day, it is heading towards an artless singularity where, you know what I mean, like just machines are making our entertainment, and that is just going to be a sad, sad day for humanity and just, overall global culture.
Well, I'm gonna say, I believe AI is transcribing this conversation, and so I want to say to our future overlords, the opinions of Andre do not reflect the opinions of everyone here. Uh, so please don't enslave me in the future.
Yes, and
Well,
and
Jay,
just in case, yeah, if the
yeah.
machines are like going after me and stuff, I just want to say that like I want to live, and yes, like it was not an accident. If something happens and like Andre accidentally, like his fridge pushed him in, like over his over his balcony and stuff, like that was not an accident. That was, AI manipulation.
But I do agree with Andre. I think, even though it's possible,
Hmm.
and these things are amazing, uh, you know, you probably shouldn't be using them, and it should be, I don't know, for yourself. Like, I don't want AI to write my lyrics for me.
No.
If I'm a producer, I don't want AI to write my beats. But I mean, I
Hmm.
understand, I guess if you're say an MC, for example, and you need a beat to rhyme to. Okay, and I understand wanting that, but yeah, it's only going to get better and better. I think for
Hmm.
now, boom bap with samples is probably not easily replicatable for now.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
If we're talking sample bases, I think right
Hmm.
now it's set to create original pieces.
Hmm.
Right?
That's true.
And not like grab from different records and flip and all
Well,
that stuff. It's
yes,
not yet. I'm not
right.
saying it won't be possible, but
But
for
I think
now,
it can come close to emulating that type of sound.
Yeah.
probably so. Yes, it definitely can.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hey,
So listen, like I said, I saw an artist say, I don't care about that. I just want the beat. So if I can get in there and
yeah,
say, give me a beat that sounds like, RZA, Wu-Tang, Boom Bap, and it's a dope beat, I'm gonna rock to it because, people used to take samplers and just sample a record, and it's just a matter of resources. These are the resources we have now. That's what they used back in the day. They would
yeah,
use an MPC and kind of manually chop a sample. They called that stealing back then. They said that was unethical back then. They said that
yeah,
should be illegal
absolutely.
back then. You know what I mean? So
I,
so this guy is just kind of like the sign of the times. This is where we are now.
Yeah,
but listen, by that same token though, you know what I mean? Like if you're, let's say you're a broke MC and stuff, man, as long as you got like a Wi-Fi connection or your local Starbucks, you can find a broke producer that'll give you a beat for free just as long as you might create something dope. You know what I
And
mean?
not
Like
that local
necessarily.
producer is probably using AI at this point.
Not
mm,
necessarily. We got a whole other problem with the producer industry now is with the lease beats,
Yeah.
where they'll do leases for like $10 for a beat that you can use and you can monetize off of. But the problem is 100 other people have used the same beat, and so when you
Hmm.
go to release it or upload it to YouTube, you're going to get a copyright strike because the records will only show the first person that used it, and so anything that you create then, your money goes to that first person because you're basically violating their copyright.
right.
So yeah, it's a whole bunch of issues now with all of that. Just
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we should just all start beat jacking. Give
And
me
then
a
I wonder if, I know we're kind of going off on a tangent here, but I do
yeah,
wonder if platforms like Spotify and Apple Music will start not only identifying content that was created with AI, but somehow filtering it out or having the algorithm
right.
affect what's AI
No, I
versus what's
doubt it.
not.
Because if it's
Because
getting
they don't care
plays,
because it's just the stream for them either
if
way.
it's getting spins and attention
Hmm.
and views, they're gonna let it rock.
Mm. But do you think, I mean, maybe that might go into the algorithm, like, part of the formula that they're using, where they say, oh, songs with this amount of AI tend to do well in this genre, so we're going to bump those more or something like that?
Potentially, or they'll put it in a category called AI music or
Hmm.
something if they can identify it.
Yeah.
But as long as it pulls the attention, I don't think the
Right.
businesses are going to
Right.
filter it out because
Right.
that's income and revenue for them. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is the world we live in, I guess. So, speaking of that, I know we kind of touched on it with the political ethics conversation, right?
right.
We did want to speak on this push poll. I put out an op-ed in the Wave on it this week, so it's out there. You can read it. I don't really want to speak too extensively about this stuff because I think it's just really a distraction from the issues. But we did want to address it and give our thoughts on it. So, Andre, why don't you summarize? You don't have to read the whole thing, but because they actually sent you the poll, you received this in your text messages. Why don't you kind of summarize what it was all about?
Yes, hold on just one second. I apologize.
There goes the smoke. I see the smoke. We have smoke.
Okay, all right, all right,
We were waiting for it.
all right.
You see that, Jay? That's a lot of smoke.
It's kind of light for Andre.
It's
Usually
Yeah,
it's
no,
not in
no,
the
no.
cloud.
pocket.
Yeah. So the thing is, what ended up happening is that our opponent's campaign ended up sending out a push poll to a large number of, I guess, prime voters, and it ended up having some malicious and defamatory statements about Mike
Hmm.
Scala, but it was framed in the way of people are just saying, what
Right.
if people
Where
said
have we heard
this?
that before?
Yeah, if people said this, would it make you vote for him more or less? Now, some of these statements included some dog whistles
Hmm.
relating to Mike's background in hip hop. Now, we've called, and as Mike has called for, our opponent's campaign to apologize. I think that would be the right thing to do because, quite frankly, within the Democratic Party, we shouldn't be using tactics from Lee Atwater. And,
Hmm.
these uh, campaign tacticians, they know who they are. These consultants know who they are. I'm fairly certain that our opponent himself probably never looked at the poll personally, but kind of naivety or like a lack of time and lack of focus is not an excuse to kind of let these things pass. This is not how politics should run. And like, if you have Democrats doing like their own version of Willie Horton ads, that's kind of nasty. That is incorrect. And I want to point out to these folks who put this together, Lee Atwater died with a lot of regrets about some of the things that he did and how he ran campaigns and how nasty he made politics overall. And I would just advise that maybe as Democrats, we shouldn't be doing that to each other in campaigns. I'm not saying don't go strong. Go, after the ideas. Let's go, man. Like
Right.
let's make it a campaign of ideas where we debate policy, and you don't have to like come up with some of your own policy and then we'll debate our policy. Like, let's go. I'm all for it. This is what campaigns are supposed to be about so that voters have a choice between different positions, different perspectives. But if you're going to go nasty and then just create lies about it and stuff, that's not really the way to run a campaign, nor does that make you a decent winner in the case that you do win. So like if you
Well, let's
lost
clarify
all
what
the
it is
ballot,
they're saying. Can you clarify what it was that was in that poll so that we know what's
so it
actually
it
we're
it
talking
uh
about?
it alleged that Mike's rap career included racist and misogynistic lyrics that they attributed to him, but were rather done by other folks potentially on those same records. So that is what it was.
Yeah, and they recycled the attack that Eric Ulrich's campaign put out in 2017 and really added to it. But a lot of those
Right.
accusations that he made were just thrown back into there.
Right. Well, listen, I'm about getting to the specifics. I'll So it alleged that Mike said the N-word, one of the things in there that said the N-word in his music, which is absolutely false. I was on a lot of those records. We've worked together for years. That's not happened. It was not on those records. So they just made that up. And even Ulrich's attack did not include
Never
that. This
included
is
that.
something new.
No,
Um,
never included that.
and listen, let's even the records that they quoted the other one. I'm on this. I don't use the N-word, so I don't know where they even heard N-word on any of the records that we put out. There was nothing there.
I mean, was there like was it on like the Styles P feature or like
Cool G Rap might have used it on a verse.
Might have, but
Yeah.
again, that wasn't Mike on there. So that was the one that was the one that stood out. Then there was the line that they quoted from one of the fam records, which was a group of me, Mike, and another person that said that every time these cops talk, I want to break their jawbone. Now there's 2 points to that, and the same thing. This is Ulrich also used the same
Hmm.
thing. First of all, that's not Mike. Mike did not say that. That was another artist on the record, and that's the correct line, but they're clearly picking and choosing
Hmm.
because the line is from the perspective of a prison inmate reflecting on his life choices and regretting it. So, like, they're not
Yeah.
even they're pulling it out to try to make something out of
Yes,
nothing.
out of nothing, because by the end of his verse, he admits that he was in the wrong the whole time.
Right. So, the issue, the bigger issue is that they're trying to use rap as a demonization, right?
Right.
And ultimately, this is very much a racist attack. It's very anti-black. It's very much something that um, people that are supposed to be the other side use to
exactly?
try to, you know,
Hmm.
we're talking you're supposed to be Democrats, right? You're supposed to be the liberal, tolerant, progressive opposition to that conservative, bigoted viewpoint, and this is the type of attack that you're pushing forward, and it's not even true.
Yeah.
Uh,
By the way, didn't they also say that we called, or I called cops pigs and stuff like that? And they put it in quotes like it's a direct quote. When did I ever do that? I never said that in a song or anywhere. Have I ever said that? Have you ever heard me say that?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. Did EJ mention? It might have been in
No, I don't think
EJ's
anyone did.
verse.
Like that, at this
No,
point,
no,
they're
no.
just
Not only
making
that.
things up
No,
as far as I can tell.
I think the quotes they said that you called women sluts, which again,
They put
not a
that in
thing.
quotes as well, but when did that happen? You know what I mean? I don't think they care about the truth here at all because it seems like they're just making things up entirely.
Right. Just like a other time when Ulrich used it, that Jay-Z line comes to mind. It's like, do you fools listen to music or do
Yeah.
you just skim through it?
The
Right.
funny
So they're
thing
just
about that one was he, back then in that campaign, he was saying that I was quote unquote glorifying drug use when I had that line in Inferno about the guy kind of stuck in that cycle of getting a paycheck, living paycheck to paycheck, not getting out of that rut and blowing whatever money he did have on weed. So that was again a story about a
right,
character, right, going through that. It was not glorifying drug use in the slightest.
right,
If anything, it's the opposite, right? But they just took that
right,
one line and was like, oh, he spends his money on weed. There he goes, glorifying drug use. It's that
yeah,
racist dog whistle you were talking about because they're not looking for
right,
the nuance in this. They're not looking to really understand what's going on here. They're just looking to play gotcha with rap and say, oh, look,
right,
you use adult language in a rap song. We should all say shame on you or something. I mean, it's silly. I
right.
think it almost doesn't feel like it's worth our time discussing, but here we are.
It's it's interesting. Right after these brilliant minds ended up sending this particular poll to the campaign manager of their opponent. Um, I ended up sending some screenshots to the team, and then just a single line, which was the Kendrick quote: "Don't tell no lies about me, or I'll tell truths about you."
Mm,
And quite frankly, you know, the thing is this: any race can get nasty, and it really shouldn't. Is all I'm saying. Like, we
Yeah.
there's no reason for animosity. There's no reason to like, again, we should be talking about policy rather than defaming each other or making each other look bad and stuff. Like, Pesach is a good dude. Let's kind of get past it and stuff and maneuver
I
correctly.
disagree. I don't know the guy, but if he's going to use this type of attack, a blatantly
Mhm.
racist anti-black attack, I'm not going to say he's a good dude. That's me personally.
I think he should take ownership of it and apologize and say, if it is the case that he wasn't aware of this, say that. And, I think you should be aware. I think the onus is on you to know what your campaign is putting out. But, you know, claim what happened, claim ownership of what happened, and say, I'm going to fire the appropriate person or whatever the case may be. Take action, take corrective action.
Absolutely. Definitely needs to take accountability and responsibility.
No, and I
So,
mean, I do also want to point out, right? Like, even in private and stuff, man, he's got your number. He could have called you and said, "Hey, man, my bad.
Hmm.
This
Right,
problem."
right,
right.
right.
So the fact that he hasn't, I mean, he's standing on business in that regard, in my view. Like, it's out there, it's false, right? I'm sure him and his team are gonna see the op-ed,
Hmm.
right? So if he does not try to make that right publicly, not even privately, like, yeah, sure, give you a call, but you need to say publicly, then no, you're not a good dude. So you're
These
standing on it.
types,
You're letting it
yeah.
breathe because you know that the negativity of that false, and even though it's false, is going to get you traction with some voters. Because some people are going to look
Hmm.
at that and take it as gospel regardless. And even, listen, let's be honest, even if he does put out there that, you know what, my bad, this was incorrect, I didn't, there's still going to be some people who have that
Hmm.
either aren't going to hear it or
Hmm.
are just going to believe it anyway.
Yeah, or they just disregard that part and they
Right.
use whatever suits their own pre-existing narrative. That happens a
Right.
lot, you
Yeah.
know. And we have songs like Handcuffs, for example, that I'm sure people will criticize, but they're intended to be conversation pieces. They're intended to
Right.
be a little provocative, get people talking about issues.
Right.
And that song in particular was about racism, the history of racism in the United States, broadly
Right.
speaking. And the fact that they're resorting to tactics like this, in my view, further bolsters the need for a song like that in the first place.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
this should just have no part of our discourse. I've been out there every single day talking to voters, knocking doors, calling people. This is not what they're concerned about. They're concerned about getting to work. They're concerned about housing. They're concerned about the pipeline. There are real issues out there, the economy,
Mhm.
jobs that are
Transportation,
affecting people. Say it again.
transportation.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I said getting to work,
Lack of a trauma
transportation,
center, man. A
lack of a
kid
trauma
literally,
center,
by the
healthcare,
way, a
tier
kid
six.
literally got shot in our district, man. Like, you know what I mean, on 80th Street and stuff. Like, maybe these are things to discuss.
Right. And so that's why I almost don't want to engage with it because it's almost like you're playing into the distraction, but we have to call it out for what it is. I just know when I'm talking to voters, they're not talking about rap music. They're talking about real life.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And yeah, I'm quite sick of this rap boogeyman that a lot of
Hmm.
establishment tries to use, and it's been going on since
Hmm.
rap started. You know, it's like, aren't we past this now? It's ridiculousness, and to me
You would
it
think so.
it
You would think
tells
so.
me a lot about the person that puts it out. And
Yeah,
so,
who okays that? That should
yeah,
never be even a consideration. I was at Resorts World this morning. Nas was there performing. It was a celebration of community development and Queens in our
watch out.
district. Resorts is in our district. Uh, but no one was there saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe he's rhyming words into a microphone on stage." You know what I mean? No one was saying, "This guy's rapping. We all need to protest."
Right.
Everyone was with it, And in the real world, that this is
By the
not
way, our
something that
opponent
I'm
was also
seeing.
in the crowd for that one.
Well, I think he was there early. I
Well,
don't know if he stuck around for Nas or not. Maybe.
I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe there's gonna be a push pull about Nas and stuff.
Oh, watch out. Watch out. Didn't they just have like a couple of at what was it? it was a couple of years ago. Wasn't it Redman spoke at the up in Albany?
In Albany, he got on the mic, and it's funny because I was watching the live stream of it from the Airbnb in Albany. We were on our way to the Capitol, and it was Senator Sanders with Redman. But
Like,
I was just watching on my phone. I think it was like an Instagram live, so maybe the quality wasn't the greatest of the video, and I was kind of moving around while, so I was like doing a double take. Wait, is that Redman standing with Sanders? I think so, maybe. I don't know. But then he got on the mic and he was like, "Hey, Reggie Noble here," like just as himself. I'm like, "Oh, there it is. It's Reggie."
yeah, so it's like, come on. Using rap as the as an insult or a smear is
Right.
it tells me a
And
lot more about you than it does about the,
good
what
point.
the music is.
That is a good point because they specifically said he was in a rap group and they put rap where
Right.
they didn't need to do that, number one. And number two, let's say this was not in the format of hip hop. Let's say it was an actor on stage at the Rockaway Theater Company.
Right.
Would they have the same response, or do they think they would get that same response? Probably not. So they
Right.
knew what they were doing. They knew that
They
by
knew what they were doing.
invoking rap, it's a rap group, that's
Yeah.
gonna make people in their view or in their want, I guess,
Right.
respond differently.
Right. So, no, they know exactly what they were doing. So, it's disgusting. Do better.
Yeah, yeah.
Do better.
The Point of Shame from Jay Carter.
Shame. Shame. What is that movie where they're walking behind them and they're going, shame, shame.
No, that was Game
Hmm.
of Thrones, bro.
Was it?
Yeah.
I've never seen Game of Thrones. I just seen
Oh.
that meme or whatever. It sounds
I never saw it
it
either.
kind of sounds like something it's Monty Python though. I don't know.
I mean, maybe it's like a yeah.
So,
But yeah, man. I mean, Monty Python is getting closer and closer to real life, though.
oh man, don't even get started. Yeah.
Hmm.
The number one movie right now should be Idiocracy, actually. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
So this is where we are in our politics, which is not a positive thing, but there are many positive developments happening with the campaign. We'll have to focus on the good here. We don't want to be derailed by the nonsense.
right,
And, I'm very happy to say we get a very positive response speaking to voters. We've been doing meet and greets, events throughout the district. We just had a really nice house party in Neponsit last week. We've got more things planned. We're out there, we're rocking and rolling. And our message really is resonating with people because this is the first primary, as far as we can tell, for this seat in 60 years. Think about that. For 60 years, the people haven't had a meaningful choice in this district. They do
mm,
now. And so this is an important moment in our history here locally. And I think that's really meaningful for people to be able to have a choice and not just be force fed their representative because this primary system, this elective system, electoral system that we have here, is supposed to strengthen our discourse and give us stronger representatives. That's why we've been calling for at least one debate, preferably more than one. But the idea here is to debate the issues, to have strong conversations about issues that are really affecting people's lives, and then come out with a better candidate going into the fall and then repeat the
right,
process. It's like, sharpening that steel, if that's what they did on Game of Thrones. I don't know. I never watched it, but I would assume that they said something like that there. So that's how it's supposed to work. We're not supposed to be mudslinging. So that's the shameful part of all this. But we're doing our part. We're going out there and raising these issues. And you know what? I've talked about before in prior campaigns, for example, we pushed hard on the Rockwood Beach Line, Queens Rail, Queens Link. Transportation, as Andre mentioned, is a very important issue. We face some of the worst commutes in the whole city in our district. Well, when you talk about these issues and they resonate, it actually forces a change because people start to take notice. People, even in other parts of Queens, other parts of the city, other parts of the state, will look at something like that and be like, wow, he campaigned pretty extensively on this issue and look at the response he got on that. That must mean this issue has legs. People really do have a desire for this. And that moves the needle on the issue. So making a campaign centered on the issues isn't just about getting yourself elected. It's about advancing those issues. And so that's why we're doing our part to do that. It would be nice if it was kind of reciprocated and both campaigns were doing it and we would have a nice discussion. But unfortunately, that isn't how things are going. We're doing what we can. And the two-way discussion that is being had here, I guess, is between us and the voters.
The voters should really jump on this idea of having a debate. I mean, for
Hmm
a candidate to dodge a debate is just come on, bro. What are you scared of? What are you afraid
And
of?
that was
Get your
another
gloves
op-ed.
on.
Yeah,
Let's get in the ring. Let's do it.
that
So,
was a previous op-ed. I think debates are central to democracy. I would go
yeah,
back to
absolutely.
Lincoln and Douglas, but all the debates throughout history.
I'm actually really looking forward to the California governor's debate tonight.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they're debating tonight.
Where is that being aired, Andre?
I think it's like whatever local CBS affiliate it is. They're doing it
Mm.
at Pomona College.
But you can
Uh,
get it on YouTube?
I think you can probably find it on YouTube, and I'm assuming it's also going to be streamed in some sort of fashion on Paramount Plus or something like that. I mean, again,
Mm.
my guess because they
Yeah.
have, they own CBS. Um, so I don't know. I'm gonna look around.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I end up unwinding in weirder ways than other people do. I watch debates from California.
That actually sounds good to me. I know we've got a lot of data entry and stuff like that,
That's
campaign
that's literally that's
clerical
exactly
work
what
to
I'm doing.
do. That's
That's
good
exactly what
background
I'm doing.
viewing. Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
hundred
yeah.
percent.
For the campaign work.
You
So
know,
your TV streaming consists of debates from California and Rick and Morty, huh?
I mean, a little bit that I was also watching the new season of American Gladiators. Apparently, that's back because this is a sign of the times.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed the show when I was a kid, and so now watching it, there's something so like it's almost like like digging through the ground and hitting China. It's like there's something so stupid, and yet like it gets through a certain barrier of stupidity and becomes brilliant on the other
Mhm.
end. You know what I mean? Like there's something there.
Wait,
Yeah.
Uh,
the athletic show American Gladiators? Oh, I always wanted to try it though.
let's go. We're gonna sign you up.
Let's go. Always wanted to try that. That one and then the American the Ninja Warrior show.
Ninja Warrior,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, all
How
of those.
long until they start incorporating AI robots as gladiators?
I will listen. They just had what was it? Uh a robot in China. They just had run like the 400-meter race or something like that. Like we're engineering our own hunters. It's so.
Wow. All right. Well, any other thoughts on this, or is it time to get back to campaign life?
No, let's get back to campaign life. And when we knock on your door, whether it's Mike himself or any of their canvassers, feel free to tell us your favorite hip hop record. You know what I mean? We're curious and stuff. We love that data point ourselves.
I like it. Who
Mike's
is your
never shied
go?
away from that point either. So like to attack him on that is
Yeah,
is crazy,
I mean, that
my
just kind of
column.
means that they don't have anything else. You know what I mean? Like
Right,
that's
right.
what that means.
My column in the Wave was called Scala's Rap for crying out
Right.
loud.
And you just released a new album recently. Like, come on.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah, yeah.
it's not like
This
it's like,
isn't the
oh, we
flex you think it
discovered some
is.
secret.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We
Also,
uncovered
it's like
something.
it's not like you wiped your music off like the internet before you
Yeah,
ran. Like it is publicly available. People can double check the math here. You know what I mean? Like scour through the lyrics.
and
You know what I mean?
because I just did my taxes recently, like the mayor of New York City, I did make some income from my music last year, in addition to my other endeavors. So there you go.
Yeah. So it's that the attack itself is very pedestrian. But the part of it that it's just the racist dog whistle uh
Hmm
is what irks me. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
so
All right.
I think it's
So
yeah,
bottom line,
do better. What's wrong with you? You're supposed to be the Democratic candidate. You're not supposed to be the orange mob and doing the same thing that they're doing and they have been doing. Like you're supposed to be the better alternative. And utilizing those tactics just will put more people off of participating in the politics because it
Mhm.
validates to some degree that ideas that, oh, well, they're just both two sides of the same coin. They're the same thing, and there is no better choice. Like, do better,
Mm.
bonehead. Like,
Cynically, do you think that might be part of the motivation to depress voter turnout? Maybe they think that with a lower turnout, they have a better chance.
I hope not, because that wouldn't make any sense because this is the primary. And if they do depress the voter turnout that they're going to need in the general, that would be very stupid.
It reeks
So
of desperation.
I think it does. I think it, to me, as you know, it says that you don't have any kind of position on the issues that you can actually rally around to get interest, and that makes you nervous. So you're going to go this route. Or you have a very much uncreative team that you're working with.
Right. Right. Maybe a little from column A, a little from column B.
Yeah.
All
So
right. Well, that is the bottom line. Jay, where can people find us?
we are still on YouTube at Nuance Show. Uh, and everywhere podcasts are available. You know, we've slightly been on hiatus while Mike fights the good fight in the streets. But all of our episodes are up there, so there's a lot to listen to.
That's giving the next push poll, Jay. If you knew, Mike said in the podcast, if you knew, would this affect your vote?
Yeah. I would say actually go listen to the podcast and you get even more of a sense of how Mike stands on a variety of issues and where he thinks
Right.
what he thinks about and to inform yourselves. So, and pick up the album. Why not?
Yeah.
While you're at it, do
Yeah.
stream. So
Yeah.
yes, I think perhaps more appropriately than ever, I can say we've got work to do, and
Yep.
we'll catch you on the next one.